We're talking about Gabrielle Reece and the secret to her marriage according to her new book. And she talks about how they've been together for 17 years because she is submissive in the relationship. Do you agree? Disagree?
I mean, apparently it's working for her. I mean, I feel like it does work in my marriage. I am the more submissive one, but not submissive in the sense of the way most people think, like a dog to a master. I allow my husband to treat me to things I like and things that make him feel more like a man. Mm-hmm. So that the definition of submission. So I allow him to do things that make him feel manly. Like he can take out the garbage. He can protect me. Like I don't feel like I have to always stand up for myself. I'll allow him to do that. Even though I have the ability to do those things, I'm very independent. I don't need him, but I allow him to feel needed. Mm-hmm. So
that's a good way to phrase it.
So
you define, it's really a definition of the word, because a lot of people say that she has taken, the feminist movement back like 20, 30 years.
First of all, it's an insult to the feminist movement. Right. If pro volleyball players, said submissive. And this is, we got a little bit thicker skin here. Mm-hmm. It's worked for her. I don't want to begrudge anyone who's got a marriage that's lasted 17 years and I know they were separated for a while and they put it back together. Mm-hmm. Whatever works. And I don't think that, Thor and Xena are exactly, kids sitting cowering in the corner.
They're both very strong personalities.
Right. So her version of submissive, I think, is more what you're probably saying, of allowing your husband to feel like he has importance in the same way that he does for me and makes me feel feminine.
And she's wildly successful. Look, as a professional athlete, as a writer, products, he's wildly successful. So I think, we were talking about this earlier, men today, they don't know where their position is. And so I think many cases, and I've been guilty of this, I've emasculated my husband left and right.
Absolutely,
So finding that balance where you can, I use the word encourage, or allow them to take care of you in certain ways, even though of course we can do it on our own, but we choose not to, right?
But here's the thing, because we're all career women, we all make decisions on a dime on a regular basis, but when we get home, we forget that, right? That at home, our husbands should be involved. So how do you find that balance? Do you, I think you have to physically stop and go, okay, you have to calculate, okay, where do I decide this and that? Is this what we do as wives?
I think it comes across
as
as nagging at home.
Exactly.
You take out the trash, move that furniture. See, whereas you're like, I encourage you to do what you were meant to do. I'm like, do this now. So maybe I haven't figured out how to be submissive.
Right. And we need to accept all different things.
And that's the key, really. Everyone's marriages are different.
Absolutely.
Not one formula is going to work for someone else, right?
As I always say, if there was a book that said, here's the 10 ways to have a perfect marriage, we'd all would have bought it and we all would have read it by now. Mm-hmm. And this is a marriage is a fluid contract that changes and morphs, and as we change and our roles change, and every day it's a different story, but it's an agreement and a compact you have with someone to allow that fluidity.
But do you make unilateral decisions in your home life, though? At what point do you confer with your husband? Like, what do you discuss?
There are certain things that we don't discuss because it's not that important.
Right.
And there are certain things where it's not even really a discussion. It is me telling him what we've decided.
Yes.
In a way.
That's called unilateral.
But sometimes that's more than what some men even get when they have women who are very powerful and independent. It's this is happening, where I try to word it as, I looked at these schools, I think this is the best one
That's
for
exactly
our son,
how I do that.
and show it to my husband so that he can get on board, where it's not so much, this is where our son's going
This
to school.
is exactly what I do. I give
Yeah.
my husband like 5 choices. That's what I do.
Right.
And I say, okay, here's choice 1, and here's why that's important. Here's choice 2, and then he decides which one.
You give him the
But you're steering
appearance of
a
decision.
little bit of the
When I got pregnant, I was working, I got pregnant, and I quit my job without telling my husband.
Oh my God.
And
Wow,
I did
that's
that because
huge.
in the inside, I knew that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Unfortunately, we had never had that discussion. I had a very successful career, making good money. It didn't dawn on me that money still needs to come in, and I guess it's going to have to come in from him. I made that gross assumption. So that was an area where I think...
How did he take that?
Oh, he's still bringing it up in dinner conversation. Oh yeah, when she quit her job and didn't even tell me about it. So I think making a unilateral decision on things that are maybe not a nuisance, but just don't culling it down to 5 choices, that's an important way to create a sense of importance for your husband. But making a unilateral decision that's kind of really important and impacts the family, that's, I don't know if that's related to being submissive, but it's probably not the best idea.
In this sort of golden rule, that's what I feel like.
Yes,
Would
exactly.
I want him to make this decision without me?
Right.
Would I be hurt? So I'm going to do to him what, the treatment I want to receive. So, just
Try to
how I
practice
go
that.
forward.
But that's being a good partner. But we forget that while we're in it,
Oh, absolutely.
I have my girlfriend just called me the other day. Her husband said, we're all going on a trip this summer and we're going to go see my mom again, the mother-in-law thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
But
And maybe to him, he doesn't see that as a big decision. That's the reason why. Because that's another thing. Some things I might consider to be important and that
Exactly.
you better not make that decision without me might not be something that he would consider to be like he's thinking maybe it's a family vacation. Like it shouldn't
so
be.
what do you do? Do you go or do you say, I that's not my idea of a vacation?
I think you say in advance, hey, we've done this a couple of years, and I've got to tell you, it's not my first choice. Can we maybe make a concession this year and go next year and offer up an alternative? I've got a friend who her birthday is on Thanksgiving, and every year they go to New York for Thanksgiving, every single year. So when she turned 40, she said, in no uncertain terms, we are not doing this. And that was okay. He's like, I get it. You've been sacrificing to a certain extent. It's a balance, I think. Yeah. Just say no.
Back to the submitting thing, I think it goes to where we get our power from. Women, we usually can muster up power from within, where men, I think they get theirs from outward things, from their job, from how they feel their position in the home.
Contribution.
They need
They
that.
equate that with who they are, right?
Right. Where we empower each other. It doesn't matter. We could be completely unemployed, but we will still feel powerful. Women have a way to figure out how to muster that up from within, where men have to actually see
External validation.
Right. And I feel like that's the reason why something like being submissive in a marriage could work, because it's allowing your husband to feel some sort of validation.
But you bring up an interesting point, because a lot of marriages now are becoming the woman is the breadwinner and the husband is a stay-at-home dad.
Right.
So how does that dynamic work?
I think it works the same way. I think it works the same way. You still got
if
to
they agree to it, then
uplift your man and give him.
But you're working all the time, and then you still have to come home and try to uplift your man.
I think
you
it's
still
at
have
the
to
core.
do that.
At the core, I think if you are, not to be so blunt, if you are pleasing your man, that is all it takes to have a successful marriage. If you're a decent human being, I think Gabrielle Reece might be. I didn't read the book, but there might be some more to the physicality of the relationship.
Yeah.
And says this is how. I mean, men. No offense to men, I love men, but let's break it down to the lowest common denominator. If you're having sex with your husband, he's thinking you're having a happy marriage. We need a lot more. I mean, I've talked to a lot of men, and that's really at the core as to how they measure it.
They're very simple.
All these intellectual conversations just get reduced to kind of caveman.
And I think she actually does say that in the book. It's like regular sex. I mean, that really is part of it too. Just
Yes.
And I'm shocked at how that's sort of duh.
That's like a new thing, but it isn't. You're
Especially once you become a mom, you don't really, it's like, if that's not what your mind is on, you don't realize how it's still important, because they're visual creatures. They're physical, where we're just like, I got emotions going everywhere.
I gotta take care of X, Y, Z. When I gave birth to my son, my OBGYN pulled me aside and she said, I've got to give you this. And I kid you not, it was a bottle of KY jelly. And I go, Dr. Cousineau, what is this for? She goes, it's for sex. I go, I know what happens when I have sex, and I'm not doing that again. And she's like, but she said she did it not for the physicality for him, it was the way to keep him connected, because all my love was going to go to that baby.
Right.
And I thought that was such an interesting thing for an OB to do. And she said she gives it to all her patients. And it kind of always resonated with me. Now, let me just say, that did not happen for a long time post-baby. But I always think about it.
Yeah, that's a good doctor.
No, absolutely.
These are things you don't really think about after you've had a baby, because woo.
In a different world.
And I get frustrated. I have lots of friends who put 110% into their children, and then just think marriage is just sort of self-sustained.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they are going to, if we do our job right, they will leave.
Yes.
Right.
And you are going to be sitting there with this maybe stranger.
Right.
And
someone else.
they came first, and then the kids followed. And I'm try to really hard to nurture that and to make sure that that is the foundation with which we can raise our kids.
Right, I think that's a really key point. I don't know if Gabrielle Reece, if that was part of her book either, but I think showing that example to your children that your daddy comes first, you come second. That's how my parents operated. We came second, and they didn't let us forget it. Now, I think to be that blunt about it is not so good, but yeah, if you're going to be ultimately with that partner, you've got to have a mutual respect, companionship, all of those things.
Equal. It's equal.
If that exists.
You can fade out on that.